What should I do?
Save America.
And?
Help Trump.
Okay. The reason I went so hardcore for Trump was because, to me, this was a fork in the road, a very obvious fork in the road. If they had another 4 years, they would legalize enough illegals in the swing states to make the swing states not swing states. They would be blue states. Then they would win the presidential. They'd win the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They would then make district, D.C. into a state. Maybe Puerto Rico, get 4 extra senators, pack the Supreme Court. So then you'll have the House, Judiciary, Senate, and presidency, all blue. And then they will keep importing more illegals to cement that outcome. Basically what happened in California.
Jesus Christ.
It would have been the end.
It is March 1st, 2025. We have entered day 40 of the revolutionary administration of President Trump and the return of America and the Renaissance and the total destruction of the globalist death cult, Great Reset, depopulation, post-industrial plan. Now, we are about to, in the next 2 hours, chronicle the incredible moment we are in history, where humanity has taken the right turn at the fork in the road. About to start, though, with all this incredible news with Elon Musk yesterday on the Joe Rogan podcast here in Austin, Texas, explaining that all the main sociologists, historians, those that chronicle human cycles, understand that we were coming to the big fourth turning, and that if civilization collapsed like it's done in the past with 8.5 billion people and all these weapons, it won't just fall apart for a few hundred years and then come back, or sometimes a few thousand years and come back, like the Dark Ages over 1,000 years. It would trigger total nuclear war and turn the planet into a hellscape, even if anybody survived. The actuaries, the studies by the Pentagon, Rand Corporation, it's unanimous. And Rand Corporation, Pentagon, the Russian analysts, Chinese analysts, all broke down the fact that there was over a 98% chance that if the Russia war in Ukraine continued, the proxy war with NATO, that it would lead to a thermonuclear war. And in all the actuaries, once you have tacticals used, it immediately goes to full commitment within about an hour. And everybody starts nuking everybody, not just the United States and Russia and Europe, but India, Pakistan, China. It's a free-for-all, ladies and gentlemen. And then all the reactors worldwide melt down. And they're way more radioactive than just the hydrogen bombs detonating. Those are clean in comparison. Imagine hundreds and hundreds of Chernobyls, the end of life as we know it on the surface of the planet. And so Elon, as he said the night before the election on November 4th last year, reiterated that when he said, I had to do what I had to do. We had to do this because the globalists were psychotic. And they believe they could have a controlled collapse and depopulate those people and somehow then emerge from bunkers later and build a new world. I mean, this is Zardoz, Moonraker type stuff you see in culture, because that's the Club of Rome and actual groups like that that believe can be done. I just had the former chief economist from the Club of Rome on. He's the new president of Romania, was arrested. He quit them 15 years ago and started warning people, hey, they plan to collapse civilization and depopulate people. So this is a fact, and I know it, Musk knows it, the Romanian president knows it, Trump knows it, and we've externalized this information that only academics and people that were well-researched knew. And so humanity's waking up to what's happening. So we've taken the right fork at the road, but we still haven't gone far enough down it to make sure we become a type 1 civilization, interplanetary, meaning if even the Earth gets destroyed or damaged massively, we can survive. We must expand. We must trailblaze. We must be mavericks. It is who we are. If we aren't expanding, we're contracting. There is no vacuum in human activity. The worst place to be is stagnant, because in that breeds always the seeds of war and destruction and barbarism. So the first important clip is Elon Musk saying, quote, we wouldn't have made it. It would have been the end if he didn't do what he did, and if I didn't do what I did, and if you didn't do what you did. So we're winning, but we have not fully taken the fork yet. We've made the decision to take the right fork, and quickly we're beginning to move down it and moving away from oblivion. Here's Elon Musk.
The reason I went so hardcore for Trump was because, to me, this was a fork in the road, a very obvious fork in the road. If they had another 4 years, they would legalize enough illegals in the swing states to make the swing states not swing states. They would be blue states. Then they would win the presidential. They'd win the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They would then make D.C. into a state, maybe Puerto Rico, get 4 extra senators, pack the Supreme Court. So then you'll have the House, Judiciary, Senate, and presidency, all blue. And then they will keep importing more illegals to cement that outcome. Basically what happened in California.
Jesus Christ.
It would have been the end. That's why I went so hardcore for Trump. It was otherwise been the end. And that's why the Democrat machine is so intent on destroying me.
It's just so fascinating that people can't see this.
I mean, I invite people to do their research. The more they do their research, the more they will see that what I'm saying is absolutely true. It's like, just do the research.
That's right. We had to take this fork in the road, not just in America, but worldwide, and reject the globalist plan to defeat future human expansion and competition by creating a global collapse, then managing that monopoly to set up a form of neo-feudalism. And he went, unless you've been hiding under a rock, you know about the amazing help.
The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president. It did start. I mean, think of what happened. Inflation. You have the war with Ukraine and Russia. That wouldn't have happened. October 7th would have never happened. Israel, they had no money. Iran had no money. Iran was stone cold broke, and now they have a lot of money. But then that's going to be the next thing you'll be talking about is Iran. What's going to happen with Iran? And there'll be some interesting days ahead. That's all I can tell you. You know, we're down to final strokes with Iran. That's going to be an interesting time. And we'll see what happens. But we're down to the final moments. We're at final moments. You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. I think that I would have had a deal within 1 month after the rigged election of 2020. They were all set to make a deal. And then when I lost, they saw this person who's a stupid person, very stupid person. And they said, let's not make a deal. And they were right. He took the sanctions off. They became rich under Biden. They went from having no money to having $300 billion. All in a short period. It's oil. Oil builds up fast. It's a nice living if you have a nice oil well. And they do. They have a lot of nice oil wells, right? So anyway, it's going to be a big thing. It's an interesting time in the history of the world, but we have a situation with Iran that something's going to happen very soon, very, very soon. You'll be talking about that pretty soon, I guess, and hopefully we can have a peace deal. You know, I'm not speaking out of strength or weakness. I'm just saying I'd rather see a peace deal than the other, but the other will solve the problem.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one. A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed. Okay? Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
And it raises one of my sort of core political beliefs is that our politics is focused on fake shit and distractions to distract us from the real stuff, right? And so if I'm looking at the environmental movement in the United States of America, and I don't even have like strong views on the, what the carbon footprint ultimately does. I'm sort of skeptical of the experts here, but I'm also skeptical of, the other side. I just don't really know what I think about this. I think it's insane to try to eliminate fossil fuels. That's kind of a belief that I have. But it's interesting that the environmental movement in America, the only thing that it talks about is the carbon footprint. And it never talks about like, oh, why do we have the highest rates of obesity in the world right now? Right? Why is it that American kids spend less time outdoors in nature than they ever have in the history of our 250-year civilization? There's this weird way in which we get distracted by the fake stuff instead of focusing on the real stuff. And I think there is a really very important environmental conversation to be had. It was interesting when one of the first things that happened when I was a senator is you had this terrible train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Got a lot of headlines. And it was a mistake at the time that wasn't obvious. They basically set off a few of the chemical cars, which, I mean, if you see the images, it looks like a nuclear bomb went off in East Palestine, Ohio. But it's putting vinyl chloride and all these other pollutants into the water, into the air, into the soil. And it was amazing. The environmental movement almost could not have cared less about a chemical explosion in rural Ohio that is potentially poisoning thousands of people, but they were really, really concerned about the carbon footprint of those same people. I'm sick of the distraction. I think we should focus on the real stuff. And unfortunately, it's true of the environmental policy, but it's true of a lot of other stuff. We just don't talk about the real thing.
Look, the Democrats say that Elon Musk and Doge are overstepping their bounds. You're right. What Elon Musk and Doge has been able to uncover is unbelievable. Half of us did not even realize.
And stop there. Because look, stop there. You just said, what he's done is unbelievable. Now, you could then add some, but what about he's found hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fake contracts, and I read them, just a tiny portion of them, the other night. Transgender surgery on mice, the money they're spending on all of this stuff, the whole thing's a scam. And you'll find ultimately that the money that they sent comes back to a lot of the people that made those deals, okay? You're going to find that. What he's also done is made people realize how many people should be cut. Because normally you go in and you say, all right, cut 4% of your workforce. He said cut 50%, 60%, 70%. That's a big thing. Now, he's done a great job. And he's paying a price for it.
He's saying
he
that
death threats. He's paying a price for it, I guess. I don't know. He actually is a real patriot. This is something that's really not good for him, and yet he's doing it. But he's opened a lot of eyes.
The waste and port in entitlement spending, which is which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. That's like the big one to eliminate, because that's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $700 billion a year. That is also a mechanism by which the Democrats attract and retain illegal immigrants by essentially paying them to come here, and then turning them into voters.
Yes.
So this is why the Democrats are so upset about the situation, because they're losing. If we turn off this gigantic money magnet for illegal immigrants, then they will leave, and they'll lose voters. Yeah, where you'll see the biggest outcry is from the Democrats who are they don't want the waste and fraud to be turned off because it is a gigantic magnet to attract illegal immigrants and have them stay in the country. You see some of the crazy stuff, like where money from FEMA, which is meant, FEMA is an agency that's meant to take care of Americans in distress. And a bunch of their money was being sent to pay for luxury hotels in New York for illegal immigrants. And that was happening even after the president was elected, and even after he signed an executive order saying that needs to stop. So we actually made sure that that money did stop going, because it's obviously it's outrageous that American taxpayer money is spent on luxury hotels for illegals. But you have to say, like, why was that being done? It was because the Democrats are trying to import voters, basically.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. And that's also why there's no voter ID needed. In fact, in California and New York State, you're not allowed to show voter ID.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that seem insane?
Insane.
Yeah.
I say that as a New Yorker. It's insane.
Yeah, insane. What should I do?
Save America.
And?
Help Trump.
Okay.
You see a lot of this money going out the door, and it's very sketchy. And it always ends up in the hands of Democrats who happen to know Democrats who are handing out the money. This has to be looked into. Is the Department of Justice looking into this very severely?
I'm not going to speak for Pam Bondi. I'll tell you this. I am part of the administration. Pam Bondi is amazing. I saw Cash and Pam today for a swearing-in ceremony. Listen, these people work so hard. There is so much information that we are finding out and revealing that they're all working around the clock just to make sure we bring justice to the people that appropriately need to be brought to justice. Those are people that were stealing from the American people, that were hiding it through NGOs, that were hiding it through funds, through operas in Colombia and condoms to Gaza and all of that. Those people need to be held accountable. That's how you deter them from the future. And I can assure you that Cash and Pam will make sure of that.
I guess they should have handed out more preemptive pardons, you're saying.
Listen, by the way, I wonder if those were auto-signed as well, because I would challenge the validity of it. You never know. Listen, the guy didn't even know what he was doing, but I'll tell you, the pardons, he knew what he was doing. I said it months before. He's going to pardon himself. And yes, I almost said to the president, listen, in the joint session speech, why don't you ask everybody that got a pardon to just stand up and tell us why you got a pardon.
Well, we know Joe Biden doesn't have insomnia. We definitely saw proof of that. Alina Habba,